In Virginia, first of all, so the gun vote and the gun owner vote. I'm looking here at the exit polling from yesterday. So, again, this is not a perfect snapshot, okay? Please don't think that this exit polling yesterday is hard scientific data that measures down to the granular level what the electorate in Virginia looked like yesterday. I think it's fair to call it a rough estimate. So, according to the exit polls, 52% of voters yesterday were from gun-owning households. The majority of voters yesterday were from gun-owning households. And a majority of those voters voted for Ed Gillespie. 61% voting for Ed Gillespie, 2% voting for Cliff Hyra, the Libertarian candidate who at some point I'm inevitably going to call Cliff Hydra. I apologize in advance for that. And 37% of voters in households with firearms voted for Ralph Northam, according to the exit polling. 48% of the Virginia electorate yesterday, according to these exit polls, did not have a firearm in their home. Ralph Northam got 73% of that vote. Ed Gillespie, 26%. Cliff Hyra, 1%. Now, how does this compare to 2016? In 2016, Hillary Clinton got 36% of the vote of households in which there is a firearm. Donald Trump got 59%. So Gillespie actually outperformed Trump, according to the exit poll, by a couple of points. Northam outperformed Clinton by a point. Fairly similar results. As far as the non-gun-owning households, in November of 2016 in Virginia, Clinton got 68% of that vote. Donald Trump got 28%. So among the non-gun-owning households, you saw a shift of about 5 points towards Clinton and about 2 points away from Gillespie compared to Trump. So 52% of the Virginia electorate yesterday live in they might not be gun owners themselves, might be their spouse, might be a parent, but they live in a home in which there is a firearm. And yet, just 61%, let's say roughly 60%, of those voters cast their vote for a pro-gun candidate. Down ticket, you saw a 17-seat advantage. Well, more than 17-seat advantage, but Democrats had to pick up 17 seats in the 100-member House of Delegates in order to take back a majority. Republicans were really pretty close to a supermajority. That's gone now. The last I saw, 50-50. And there might be some races where you will have recounts because a lot of these races were very close. Northern Virginia turned out big time. There was, and everybody today is trying to assess, okay, well, what does this mean, right? What drove this? And I think that there are Virginia's a big state, first of all. Cameron knows this because he's driven from Northern Virginia down to Bristol, Virginia. It's a big state.
It's a very big state. And it's
right?
until you travel it, you really don't know. Listen, we're not Texas, but it takes a long time to get from one end to the other.
Yeah, absolutely. So to say that there's one answer, one reason, there's not. Because in many ways, there's more than one Virginia. Northern Virginia, I think it's evident. I think I'm going out on a fairly sturdy limb here to say that, there was a strong vote against Donald Trump, not necessarily against Ed Gillespie. This was a motivating factor, driving people to the polls, particularly in Northern Virginia, which has gone bluer. Cameron talks about living in Alexandria, which has been deep indigo for quite some time, along with Arlington County. They had huge turnout. A lot of these individuals either work for the government directly, might have a spouse that's employed by the government, work as a government contractor. But they're part of the D.C. infrastructure. And as D.C. has expanded and the size of government has expanded, the D.C. metroplex has expanded as well. So when I moved to the Northern Virginia area in 2004, I moved to western Fairfax County, about 20 miles away from Washington, D.C. And it was at that point considered a quote-unquote purple county. But the counties further to the west of Fairfax County, Prince William County, where Manassas, Virginia is located, Loudoun County up to the northwest, where Leesburg is, those were considered the exurbs of Washington, D.C. You just were starting to have like D.C. workers moving into that area because it was affordable, at least more affordable than moving in closer to Washington, D.C. Those were still generally seen as fairly reliably conservative seats, fairly reliably red. The closer you got to D.C., the bluer it got. Well, last night, you had a legislative race, district, basically Loudoun County. The Democrat there won by 20 points in Loudoun County, which is, if you are a Northern Virginia resident or you follow Virginia politics, like that's a shocking result. A lot of these races were, again, very close. That one wasn't. And at least as of the map, the last night's map, the blue D.C. burbs have expanded southward, probably another good 30, 45 miles down to Fredericksburg, Virginia, Stafford County. The blue areas have shifted west into Loudoun County, even down towards Warrenton, Fauquier County. I mean, these are places that just weren't competitive, and now they are. But this was, again, something that we had talked about with Andrew Langer yesterday. Democrats said, we're going to run candidates in districts where we haven't run candidates in years and multiple election cycles. We're going to see what happens. There were a lot of races, a lot of districts in the state of Virginia the Republicans did not contest. There were still some districts, by the way, where it was only the Republican on the ballot. And you still saw that for the Democrats as well. But Northern Virginia and the surge in voting in Northern Virginia, coupled with, I got to say, and I hate to say it, I think a complacency. I don't want to call it apathy, because I don't quite think that's the right word. But I think it is complacency. Particularly, again, if you live in a place where you've been, represented by the same representative or the same party for 15, 20 years, you may think, no big worries here, right? I know how this is going to turn out. It's going to turn out the way it's always turned out. You look at the level of support that Ed Gillespie got in a lot of counties in rural Virginia. And it wasn't that he lost those counties. I mean, in some cases, he'd win counties 75-25. But the level of turnout was stagnant or down compared to 2016. I think maybe the easiest way to describe what happened last night is that a lot of Democrats treated this like it was a presidential election. And a lot of Republicans treated it like it was an off-year election for governor. And the voter turnout on the Republican side more reflective of what a typical off-year election would look like. But again, in Northern Virginia, places like Charlottesville, where I think voter turnout was up 31% over 2013, this was viewed as a must-vote, must-win election. So I got to tell you what I'm taking from this. First of all, looking forward here to 2018, as gun owners, I think we have to, first of all, engage other gun owners. And this is something that we had talked about over the last couple of weeks. I'm kicking myself for not doing more. And I plan on doing more. But, 37% in Virginia of households with firearms voting for the most anti-gun candidate. That's pretty troubling. Health care, according to this exit poll, the number one issue in Virginia in this election. Gun policy, according to the exit polls, the number two issue. Number one issue for 17% of Virginia voters, about 1 in 7. And according to this exit poll, about 49% of those voters who said that gun control was their big issue, or gun policy was their big issue, voted for Ralph Northam. 49% voted for Ed Gillespie. 2% voted for the Libertarian Cliff Hyra. So there is outreach that we can be doing to non-gun owners and engaging in with non-gun owners, but there's a lot of outreach that we need to be doing with gun owners as well. And unfortunately, this is a rough lesson. You know, nothing shakes you from your complacency like all of a sudden having to deal with the repercussions of your complacency, right? And I have a feeling that Virginia gun owners are going to be dealing with some repercussions for their complacency in the months and years to come.